So what are your thoughts on HRT, ladies, hormone replacement therapy? Have you got more questions maybe than answers? Well, you're not alone, and we're here today to have a Meno expert chat specifically to answer the big questions you've got around HRT. And I'm not going to do that on my own. I'm here with a great doctor, Dr. Jane, who will introduce herself in a minute. But the reason we're discussing this topic is I recently conducted a number of interviews with women in perimenopause and menopause, and I also have the women in my community, and I know from my own personal experience that this is still the key question that most women have got as they enter this life stage and go through the menopause transition. You know, and the reason that I founded Meno Collective after struggling myself through menopause and seeing lots of different doctors and trying to figure out what was going on was to help other women, right? Fast forward years later, I now really want to, and we want to, support women to be able to not just survive, but to thrive in their careers and their lives. And we know that to do that, they need support to manage and hopefully reduce their menopause symptoms and things that perhaps they're tolerating that they don't need to. And hence why this discussion today is really important. And, you know, I hear insights from women that suggest that sometimes they're not being offered choices and options. Sometimes they're being told certain things are not for them. They're not necessarily getting all the information, and they're leaving feeling a little bit empty-handed and not sure whether this is just something they need to put up with, frankly. So welcome, Jane. Thank you so much for answering the questions that these busy women have got on their minds about this, you know, really important topic. So I'm not going to try and do justice to introing you. Do you mind just doing that for us and telling the ladies a bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, it's lovely to be here and have a wider audience. I'm always talking to women, but it's great to be here today, and I'm really supportive of Melissa's project because I'm very passionate about helping menopausal women. I'm an Australian trained GP. I've had my own practice for a long time, but now I'm predominantly working in the specialised field of menopause and sexual medicine. I've spent all of my career listening to the stories of women from all different stages of their lives, and I think it's and I'm a woman myself. You know, I've been through all those kind of major changes that women, all the different things that we deal with in our lives. I'm now a postmenopausal woman and thriving, and I'm really loving working in the field of menopause.
Awesome. So not only are we inspired by, hopefully two postmenopausal women thriving, but I want you to see what is possible for you, what you deserve and what you support in terms of the support in the options for you and your health. And so, you know, this is what we want for you, empowerment. So let's start, Jane, with, I guess, just that question of why is this, you know, so consistently still the number one question that women have you've got is around, you know, HRT.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes I shake my head and think, my gosh, you know, why are we still at this point, you know, all these years down the track?
And we definitely are.
We are, absolutely. So I still hear it, sadly, from women all the time. Okay, I think that there are two main reasons for this. I can't help but start with the issues around stuff to do with gender, and both gender and ageism, I think. So in women's health, there's a much bigger theme that goes on, which is that if it's natural, you should tough it out. Now, this starts off with period pain.
Right.
You have girls who suffer unduly, they have time off school, they're not given adequate medication, they're not brought to the doctors for their heavy, painful periods. Then you get into, you know, women who are pregnant, who are vomiting all over the place. I mean, when else in life would you tolerate constant vomiting and nausea except in pregnancy? They're not offered adequate medication. Come to childbirth, extremely painful experience. Still a hesitation for lots of people, women included, to actually have adequate pain relief in childbirth. Then you come through to menopause and it's like, well, not only now are you just suffering a normal physiological event, you're actually also old. And so being an older woman suffering, it's kind of like, well, it's just not taken seriously.
Right, just put up with it.
Yeah. And so it's really sad. So it is a common theme.
It actually is really sad. Like just when you, I've not heard someone put that together so succinctly.
Yeah.
About, and I don't use the word suffering lightly, but it almost becomes like a tolerated, normalised, and then in many cases like a badge of honour. And I'm guilty of that, having had, natural deliveries and these things. I think I had adopted, and then you see these gurus around sort of proposing, proponents of this sort of, no pain, no gain, natural is good, you can do this, tough it out. And that's what that's not what we want for these women.
No. I think I've been challenged really through my career, listening to the stories of women. I've really had to challenge, perhaps my own assumptions. I'm a tough 1970s feminist.
Right.
I'm that generation who could do everything, did do everything. And, the idea of, pain relief in childbirth, I would have said, go and squat behind a tree, do it naturally. Lucky for me,
I pretty much did.
Yeah, me too. But that is not the experience for a lot of women. And so, look, it's the same thing at menopause. So I think that is a big issue, and I think we cannot back away from the idea that this is about gender and then add age as a second layer. So that's number one.
Yeah.
The second thread that's very important here is the role of the media and the fear of medico-legal consequences. Now, I'll explain what I mean about that.
Yeah.
So through the generations, if we look at my grandmother's generation, so these are women who are dead now, no help for menopausal symptoms available.
Yeah.
Just had to suffer, no alternatives. Then you look at my mum's generation, these are women who are now in their 80s. In came hormone therapy, fantastic. It was actually adopted quite well. I think doctors took it on because they saw how happy their customers were. These women were getting real, genuine relief from their symptoms. And actually it was like, hey, this stuff is like the elixir of youth. We're going to stay on it. And so women tended to stay on their hormone therapy quite a long time. Now, there's this really pivotal year, which was 2002. And I was preparing for this talk and I couldn't believe that was 20 years ago when the problems sort of really, hit the fan, really. So there was a huge clinical trial that was underway called the Women's Health Initiative. Sounds great, it was a really big study of women's health. But they did some preliminary analysis of the data around women who were on hormone therapy. And all of a sudden they terminated the trial because they found that there was this risk associated with hormone therapy. Now, the media coverage around this was huge. It was really dramatic. And it was, really kind of had a sort of a very sort of hysterical tone to it, which actually made a lot of women very scared. So you had a lot of women out there who were very happy on their menopause hormone therapy, who suddenly stopped it. You had younger women who were
entering... my mum just like tossing it.
Yeah, exactly.
That didn't work so well.
Yeah. Myth number 2 is hormone therapy causes heart disease. So fortunately there's more of a conversation now around women and cardiovascular health, which is a good thing. That had been neglected. However, there is fortunately no evidence that being prescribed hormone therapy is going to increase your risk of heart disease. And if you have some existing heart disease, it's just something you need to talk to your cardiologist or your GP about. When they have looked at the studies around heart disease, they've actually found that hormone therapy taken in that first 5 years after menopause, women have lower cardiovascular risk on hormone therapy than women who are not on it. But it swings slightly the other way for older women on hormone therapy. But the average, the evening out, is actually no overall difference in heart disease. So that's definitely a myth. Myth number 3, so this is a big one. Myth number 3 is that if I take hormone therapy, I've got a high risk of getting breast cancer. We have to talk about breast cancer.
Yeah, let's put it on the table.
I really think, and quite rightly, it is a major cause of concern, and it's probably one of the things that I spend most time talking to women about when I'm coming in to discuss hormone therapy. Now, let's just set the scene. Breast cancer is really common now. Breast cancer is, you have a 1 in 7 lifetime risk of having breast cancer. Now, when I started practicing 30 years ago, it was 1 in 13. It has got much higher, and we might speculate about why that is, but breast cancer is very common.
So many women have had a very close experience with it. So it's very present as we get older, isn't it?
All of us have got friends who've had breast cancer. When it's such a common cancer, there are, of course, going to be many women who are taking hormone therapy who do get breast cancer. So the question is, does hormone therapy increase your risk of breast cancer? Now, bear with me here because it's not a yes/no answer. This one, I did the two easy ones first, okay? Yeah. So the answer depends a bit on what type of hormone therapy you're on. Okay. So quick lesson here in hormone therapy.
Yes.
If you've had your uterus removed.
What are we calling it these days, by the way?
Menopause
Let's
hormone
brush
therapy.
up.
Yeah, so HRT, always what it was called until it swung around about 5 years ago. Official terminology.
It's ready for a rebrand,
It's
isn't it?
MHT now. I don't know why MHT is. It sound more punchy or something. It's menopause hormone therapy. We'll get rid of that 20
years of
baggage. Yeah, I think so. So it's menopause hormone therapy.
Okay, great.
So breast cancer. So if you are a woman who for some reason doesn't have a uterus anymore, your hormone therapy prescribing is very simple. You only have to take estrogen. And these days that will commonly be just a patch or a gel or something like that. Now, we know that there is no additional breast cancer risk for women who are on estrogen alone. Okay? All right? That is not the majority of women. The majority of women still have their uteruses, and so therefore they have to take both estrogen and progesterone. Mm-hmm. Now, it is the progesterone that probably is the predominant breast cancer risk. Okay. Now, when we look at progesterones, there are progesterones and progesterones. There are the older progesterones and there are newer progesterones. So the newer progesterones, specifically, there is now a progesterone that is bioidentical. It is the same molecule that our own body produces, and that is called micronized progesterone. And it appears that that has significantly lower breast cancer risk. Okay. They're wondering in the longer term, we need more data now, it may have no additional breast cancer risk. But the jury's out.
Bioidentical?
Yes, bioidentical, or body identical.
Body identical. Sorry, they are different, aren't they?
Well, bioidentical is a term used by people who use compounding pharmacies.
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify that.
I know, thank you for picking up that. Yeah, body identical is the term used generally for the micronized progesterone, which is produced, under normal kind of, pharmaceutical, by big pharma, but under standardized kind of conditions. Yes. For women who are now being prescribed hormone therapy, predominantly I would hope that most of them, first of all, will be offered micronized progesterone because that is the lowest breast cancer risk. There is one other hormone called diprogesterone, which is very similar to our own molecule, but it's not as easily available because it comes kind of in combination products. Right. So micronized progesterone. Okay. Slight increase in breast cancer risk. Now, the other interesting thing though is even women who are on these older progesterones, the ones with a higher risk, there are no additional breast cancer deaths. So there are additional cases of breast cancer, not very many, and I'm not going to talk statistics because it's very confusing, but following women over a 20-year period who are on one of the more older, what I would call old-fashioned hormone therapies, there were no additional breast cancer deaths, although there were additional women treated for breast cancer. Yeah. So I think that's very, very reassuring. You don't want any woman to go through breast cancer treatment because that can be pretty torrid itself. Yeah. But in the end, I think if a lot of women know, okay, it's a small risk, I can manage this risk. Yeah. So the risk can be managed. So any woman being prescribed hormone therapy has to have a physical examination of her breasts. Yeah. She needs to have a recent mammogram, and I insist that all women have that before I prescribe it. Yeah. And then annual review. You see your doctor once a year, they examine your breasts. You have high awareness of your own breasts. So you check your breasts every Okay, one more myth. Myth number 4, perhaps not so commonly known, but a lot of people have heard about about hormone therapy and blood clots. Mm-hmm. So things like deep vein thrombosis, which you sort of associate with taking perhaps a contraceptive pill or travelling on long haul flights and things like that. Okay, so in terms of busting myths, so this is either true or false, depending on what type of hormone therapy.
Okay. So, it's good to get into the types.
So for most of my career, hormone therapy was tablets, okay? Yeah. But, probably 20 years ago, they introduced patches, and now predominantly women will be starting on patches or gels. Now, in terms of the story about blood clots, if you are on a patch or a gel, the hormone is being absorbed through your skin. Yeah. It doesn't reach such high levels. It's called transdermal, exactly. And transdermal estrogen does not increase blood clot risk, okay? And I can't stress that. I mean, there's still a lot of doctors who don't seem up to speed with that. taking your hormone therapy via tablet form does increase thrombosis or blood clot
Okay.
risk.
Okay.
So the takeaway message from this one is that you should be offered transdermal through the skin estrogen above tablets. Now, still I see a lot of women coming in who are offered tablets first, which was perhaps the older way of doing it.
Okay.
So with all of these things that we've talked about with myth busting,
And sorry, can I say one thing? It's really nice that there is the gel, because I do hear a lot of women saying they find the patches, like it's getting off the, the stuff,
sort of
and
adhesive stuff.
they're just not like as user friendly as say a gel might be.
Yeah.
So it's nice that there's an option.
It's great that there's a choice, and in the end, it's always then about choices.
Yeah.
So I think the take-home message from all of this is that the safest combination of hormone therapy is transdermal estrogen, either a gel or a patch, combined with the micronized progesterone. That's that neuroprogesterone I was speaking about. That is your safest combination. Okay, that's the end of my myth busting.
That is some gold right there, ladies. Okay.